truth is, psychiatrists don't know if there is a cause or cure for any mental illness. The reason is because mental illnesses depend on the existence of a chemical imbalance in the brain, which has not been scientifically proven to exist. However, it is this supposed chemical imbalance that requires medication. In fact, no mental disorders have ever objectively been proven to exist. For example, with diabetes, doctors can measure the amount of insulin the body is supposed to produce and medicate accordingly. But with depression, supposedly caused by a lack of serotonin in the brain, there is no way of measuring how much serotonin is needed to feel happy. Despite the lack of evidence for chemical imbalances, the psychiatric industry has managed to persuade society that there is an epidemic of mental disorders. Maybe you're wondering why psychiatrists are doing this. There's one simple reason. There's a strong bond between the psychiatric industry, the FDA, the pharmaceutical companies, and that bond is, of course, money. Money is the reason why drugs are being approved. The FDA is approving psychiatric drugs faster because more drugs on the market means more money. The psychiatric industry makes about $330 billion a year. How do they do it? How do they convince us that we are all full of mental disorders? They do it with the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Every disease listed in the DSM has a corresponding drug which generates profits for the psychiatric industry. The DSM currently contains 347 mental disorders. Take shyness, for example. You may think it's normal, but in the DSM it's now known as social anxiety disorder, SAD, which requires medication. Worse yet, to increase their profits, the psychiatric industry sells similar drugs, but with different names. And things are getting worse. In 1996, there were only 44 psychiatric drugs. In 2009, there were 174, and every day more drugs are being approved by the FDA. There is a massive marketing campaign to promote them. Almost $5 billion a year for TV commercials alone. A frightening way of measuring this campaign's success could be the approximately 75,000 children in the U.S. currently addicted to stimulants, or the 100 million people around the world that are on psychiatric drugs. Unfortunately, the marketing of psychiatric drugs may also be responsible for approximately 42,000 deaths per year. But it doesn't end there. Half of the people that commit suicide are on psychiatric drugs. That means more than twice the number for homicides. You may think that psychiatric drugs are prescribed only by psychiatrists, but they're not. 66% of psychiatric drugs are being prescribed by general practitioners. One of the most prescribed drugs for children with ADD or ADHD is Ritalin. The FDA has actually classified one of its two main chemicals as amphetamine-like because it is similar in its chemical structure. In other words, it is considered a Schedule II narcotic in the same abuse category as morphine, opium, and cocaine. In the end, the ones who suffer the most are children. 6 million have been diagnosed with disorders with no objective scientific basis. These numbers are alarming when you consider how little we actually know about the long-term effects these prescribed substances have on young, developing brains. But besides the lack of objective scientific evidence to prove the merits of psychiatric medications, drugs generally do not heal anything. It is commonly accepted that a drug only makes you feel better when you're depressed, sad, or anxious for a short time. When the drug wears off, the pain becomes stronger and makes your body depend on the drug, causing addiction. It is important to remember that because of the possible side effects associated with suspending your medication suddenly, you must do so only after consulting your doctor.